Hello there, Fabiola, friends, family, and fans. My name is Kaleb McConnor or Fulvius, and today I am with,
I'm Meghan Mullaney.
yep, and who are you playing in this upcoming project, Megan?
I'll be playing Syra, which is one of Fabiola's handmaidens.
Amazing. So, we're going to be bringing you guys another podcast today on the Industrious Family website so that you guys can learn a little bit more again about myself, but also learn a lot about Megan here and what she's going to be bringing to the project. And we're just going to be talking about the project in general. So, my first question for you, Megan. So, I did some deep diving and I went on your well, not on your Instagram. Actually, no, it was your Instagram. And I saw that you were about to play or have played Mary Magdalene.
Yes, so
Yes.
I that's my senior capstone project. I'm also an acting student right now, and I
Nice.
did a modern rendition of the Mary Magdalene story, where I
Great.
played Mary Magdalene, who was a modern day prostitute, and kind of her wrestle with that life, and eventually her walk away from it.
Right. And now the thing is that I also saw is that not only are you the actor in it, but you're also the creative producer. What has that been like? Because did you have to start up your own crowdfunding? Like what are you kind of doing it all? Like what are you doing for the project?
It definitely felt like it. I was so with creative producing, I definitely had some producers who were my very close friends who helped me with a lot of it. It was actually my first time producing. Um, so for me, a lot of what that looked like was calls with my screenwriter, developing the script and kind of getting the story where I wanted it, and then coming up with the aesthetic of the film, talking to my set deck people and saying, this is what I want, talking to the art department with costumes, hair, makeup, and kind of
Mhm.
um, giving them their like a place to start from. And so I came
Sure.
up with my production team by myself, and um, it was a lot of just like the design, the aesthetic of the project, and the details of the story that were my
Right
responsibility.
now, did your college, all the people that you hired for your team, were they all based out of people out of your college, or were they people in your area that you like did a did like a interview on and like have them come on almost as like their job?
Yeah, so most people were either connections I made in school or from past graduating classes, but we did
Right.
have most people in my cast were actors I had hired from LA who I had worked with
Wow.
on previous projects.
And so I'm sorry, I'm actually very interested on this. So Mary Magdalene was a prostitute
Mhm.
who what did she fall out of her moral self and finds her way back, or could you tell me a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, so the film begins with Mary as a prostitute. She's living the life, and to her this is fun, this is empowering, this is what she wants to do, but there is a little bit of a grapple with it because obviously nobody in their childhood is like, when I grow up, this is what I want to do. It's
Right.
and so the thing that really shifts her look on that is she meets this individual named David, who is the Christ-like figure in the story. And he is a man
Good.
dying of cancer. And how they eventually become friends is he needs help moving out of his apartment into a hospice. And sh he hires her just for her help packing up the apartment. And it's kind
Oh,
of
wow.
through their interactions that I think this is the first time Mary has met a very gentle, kind man. And that contrasts with the relationship she has with her pimp, which is very abusive, who and the
Right.
pimp, like the satanic character,
Right.
symbolically. And so it's kind of her wrestling with, do I want to, stay in this life and do whatever my pimp says, or could I actually be something more? Because
Want
of
to find a way out and be more
yeah.
moral, and that
Hmm.
sounds like an amazing. I mean, the dynamic there, because the pimp only cares about the money aspect, and they
Yes.
don't treat the female as a female. And then when you see this individual dying of cancer, and there's no saying if he's going to live or die. I can see how that changes her perspective, not only on men in general being very kind, but also life.
Yeah.
So that's just that's I'm excited. Is there any date that comes out?
Yes, so it will be premiering August, I think 30th. That's when we do the
Okay.
practicum screenings, and so I can show everybody in the Fabiola cast and crew because it is something I'm
Awesome.
very excited about to show. So there is a little bit of
Well,
language as
that's
a
really
disclaimer, but for the subject
that's great.
matter,
I
it's
can't wait to see it. So
very clean. So thank you.
good. You're welcome. Um, so again, being on um, your crowdfunding page, I believe
Mhm.
is where I found this information. You're a huge fan of watching behind the scenes on movies. I am too. I love it. I
Mhm.
love watching how things are made. That's what got me into acting because it shows you a way in of what these people do for their work.
Yeah.
Essentially, I quote it because it's just fun. It doesn't seem like work.
Mhm.
So you love watching the behind the scenes of movies, and you love watching actor interviews, me as well, like the Vanity Fair and the actor roundtables.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite movie to watch for the behind the scenes or how it was made? And what is your favorite actor or actress that you get to see?
Okay. Well,
I know it's a loaded question. I'm sorry. There's a
um,
lot of content there.
yeah, no problem. I have to say, for behind the scenes, that's very good.
Like what
Mm,
what movie was like, wow,
I I
that's
think
really cool how they made that.
for me, it was when the Hunger Games trilogy was coming out because that's when I really got into acting, and
Okay.
I loved the books, and so I would watch behind the scenes, and like I just found it so fascinating. Like when I found out things weren't filmed in order, and like all these explode, like it was just. I went down this rabbit hole of just like I need to know more. I need to know how movies are made. I need to know how these
Right.
actors get together. And so that kind of meshed with the Hunger Games are wonderful films, I think, but they're not like my favorites
Right.
necessarily or like the Hollywood classics. But they
Sure.
very much merged with my hobbies at the time and like my infatuation with acting. So it holds a dear place in my heart. It's very
That's
nostalgic
good.
for
And
me.
which ones are better, the movies or the books?
Okay, well, I mean, the books is like the given answer, but my acting
Okay.
brain also really
Okay.
appreciates the movies. And then
Understandable. That's a good rebuttal.
my favorite actress, I'd say I really have gotten into Saoirse Ronan recently. I think she's she
Yes.
has a very good range. She has a naturalism to her, like an honesty.
Hmm.
And I think that she's played some very like grimy characters, but she's done it with respect and with dignity. And so I very much
Right.
appreciate that. Like she's a clean
Yes, my
actor.
Irish sister.
Yeah.
My Irish sister.
Mhm. So I think Saoirse Ronan right now is one of my current favorites.
Nice. Awesome. Mine's Angelina Jolie. You can ask anyone.
Ooh.
Angelina Jolie is my favorite. Always will be. Not only is she stunningly beautiful, but
Hmm.
she's like I would say, one of the top actresses in the world next to like Meryl Streep and
Yes.
um,
What's
uh,
some of your favorite
uh,
movies with her in it?
Deborah Carter. Oh man, loved the movie Wanted. That was a good one. And then I also really liked this one movie called Changeling, which was a movie about a young mother, a widow, I believe. The father's not in the picture, and her son gets kidnapped.
Hmm.
And basically, the police system uh, they gave her son back, but it wasn't her son. It just looked like her son, and it kind of follows her character as she is a grieving mother, not knowing where her son is. Later, come to find out that he's actually deceased by the kidnapper. So it's like a really heart
Wow.
wrenching kind of movie. Yeah, I would definitely check it out. It's called Changeling. I think it won. I think she got nominated for an Oscar for that. So
Okay.
definitely worth a watch. Um,
Noted.
all right, moving on. So I saw on Megan Geyer's Instagram. Do you know who Megan Geyer is, correct?
I sure do.
Yes.
I sure do.
So I saw that you were in Romeo and Juliet, and that was
Hmm.
semi-recent.
Hmm.
Could you tell the people who you played in that, and what was your most memorable moment of that theater production?
Yes, so in Romeo and Juliet, I played Juliet. That was my dream role, one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, and I think
Mhm.
my most like jarring memory of it was, let's see. I mean, the whole process was so beautiful. I think there was the moment closing night where we were all bowing and thanking
Mhm.
everybody who had
Right.
who had participated in the production. And I just had such immense gratitude for Caitlin Slater, who directed the show, Mary Wenner, who was
Yep.
stagehand, and Amanda Hardcastle. She also was assistant directing, and these are all people that are very close to my heart. Megan Geyer, she directed the or choreographed the ballroom dance, and was very
Okay.
patient with me because I have two left feet. So she was very kind to slow me down and be like, oh no, these are the steps. So I didn't look
Yeah.
completely discombobulated. That was, I mean, yeah, it was my dream role. It was a beautiful production. It was very emotionally intense because I'm like sobbing for the second half,
I saw
basically.
one of the pictures. You're like on the ground crying your eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm like, there,
yeah.
she's getting to it.
Um, but it was also very beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, and to go back on that fact with or the point that you made with, it all kind of sinks in when you're doing that last bow on closing
Mhm.
night. You've done maybe 4 or 5 performances beforehand, and then on that last night, you realize all your work, everything that you've worked for as a performer, as a creator, is now coming to an end, and like everyone around you is like your family essentially.
Mhm.
And yeah, I had a background in theater as well, but I switched to film during the pandemic, so I have not visited the stage in probably about 5 years. I want to go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, closing night in front of the people, everyone watching you perform and your art is just something that's really amazing because you don't get that with film much, because it's like, all right, action, and then if you mess up, it's cut, and then you go again. There's no crowd, there's no um, there's no people watching your art essentially besides the director or anyone else. So I totally get that, and I wish I was there for the performance because it looked like it was fun, right?
It
It was
was
it was fun.
It was so fun. I mean, the good thing about Romeo and Juliet is even though it's a tragic Shakespeare play, the first
Yeah.
half is very comedic and very fun. Um,
Yes.
so that was like there was a lot of laughs, there was a lot of joy, and then the second half is where everybody kind of gets their heart broken.
Right.
But yeah, I loved the cast, and the guy who played Romeo is one of my very good friends, and we're very close still. So um,
Good.
it was just a very respectful, very kind, very pure performance too. I think sometimes there can be a temptation with Romeo and Juliet to like really lean into the sensuality of it in a way that I think really
Yeah.
tarnishes the play. But it's also
Right.
about young people being in love and like the impulsivity and the joy that comes from that. And I think that we kind of
Right.
leaned into that instead of making it a little bit more like vulgar and weird. So I was
Right.
I was very grateful too that our director preserved the purity of young love and made infatuation more of just like this naive like cluelessness but excitement, you know? So
Mhm.
that was a lot of fun.
That's great. Before we move on, are you familiar with Shakespeare's play *Midsummer's Night's Dream*?
Yes.
Okay, so funny story about myself is when I was doing theater, I actually was in that, and I played Francis Flute the Bellows Mender and Thisbe.
Very
So
nice.
I had, me with my red hair. I had a blonde wig on top of my red hair. My red hair was still showing because the wig didn't fit me because I got a big cranium, and
Uh-huh.
I had a dress on, and I had to speak in a high pitched voice. That play in particular, we did a lot of shows in the park, and
Of
so
course.
families got to bring their drinks and their food and their kids and their dogs. Hopefully they weren't pooping and peeing everywhere, but
Yeah.
I was saying, so you can enjoy a nice play in the park, and I just remember having a blast with that. So yeah,
Mhm.
Shakespeare, great writer, and his shows never seem to miss. So that's really good. Um, uh, okay, so my next question for you is, what got you into acting? And is there any people that inspired you?
Yeah, so my trip with acting te definitely took me by surprise. Growing up, I was a very, very timid child. Like I would hide in my room when extended family came over. So very
Right.
shy.
Okay.
And one of my friends asked me to do a theater camp with her when I was in fourth grade because she just wanted to know somebody. And my plan was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up, not talk to anybody, do behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But part of the program required everyone to audition, even if you didn't want to be in the cast. And
Sure.
the play we did was about this prince who gets kidnapped, and then the like three bandits get out of jail and like save the prince as like their opportunity to like get a new start, essentially. And
Sure.
I was so nervous during the audition that I did this scene where the prince is kidnapped and has to like scream and like shout for help and everything. And so I took all my nervous energy and I just put it into that. And then I got the lead. I was a prince for my first
Wow.
role. And
Jeez. Okay.
I was like, I can't do this. But I actually found, I mean, you were in theater, like there's something about actors where it's like you feel so comfortable with each other, I think.
Yes, it's a family. It's a family.
It's a family and nobody like everybody looks a little weird, doing vocal warm-ups or getting into character.
Right.
It's like it's part of the process. Like there's no judgment. And that was
Yeah.
made me feel very comfortable and very seen as like a little girl who was scared of everyone and everything. And I remember I
Right.
also had a blonde wig. I put on the blonde wig, mine
Oh,
actually
that's great.
fit. And I was remember just like dancing around the house and like pretending to be kidnapped and like I
Your
had
mom walks in, you're like, I'm not doing anything.
oh,
Like,
totally, totally.
it's
Um,
good.
and so it just became this thing that I learned I really loved, and I loved that feeling of bowing and not being afraid of like
Sure.
being seen and being in front of people. And then from there, it was like, well, this brings me so much joy, and I can do it for life. So acting is the
Right.
career. I'm ready to go. Uh,
Yeah,
and
you're like, wait, I can actually kind of get paid for doing this. This is cool.
yeah,
This is fun. I'll do this. Yeah,
yeah.
it's better than being a janitor, which I've also been. We'll not talk, we're not going to talk about that.
I've also been a janitor.
Have you really? Oh my gosh, we both wear wigs and we both clean toilets. What a small world. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So, okay, we're going to move on to the Fabiola questions. We've learned a little bit more about you, and we'll touch
Mhm.
base a little bit more on questions after we talk about Fabiola. But the reason why we're doing this is to learn not only about you, but also about Fabiola and your
Yeah.
character in it. So, as you already said, you were playing Sarah. I always say Sarah. I don't know
It's Syra because there's the
my
Y,
pronunciation.
Syra.
Yeah, yeah, Sarah.
I'll
I'm
call
going to
Mary
probably
and I'll say
mispronounce that on set a couple
that.
times. Yeah. We're gonna be where she's gonna say action, and I'm gonna say Sarah, and they're gonna be like, nope, it's Syra. I'm like, okay,
Back to one.
I
Yeah.
can already see it. I can already see it now. Um, okay, so you're playing Syra in Fabiola.
Hmm.
Um, what is a scene that you are excited to perform? Now, I talked to Mary about this.
Yeah.
She said that we can talk as much as we want about the script and we don't have to worry about spoilers. So, have you been able to enjoy a scene yet? Have you been able to be excited of a scene? Which one would you like to perform the most?
Well, I think, all of them. Can I say that? I really love the ending scene, which I know we can give spoilers, but I'll try to avoid it a little bit. But I think
Okay.
Sarah's last scene is the one I'm most excited for because of just this theme of loving an enemy. Because I know her and Fabiola begin with a very contentious relationship, even though there's like mutual respect, but there's also tension. And
Right.
watching them progress, I'm very excited to film that, and I'm very excited for, I think that's Sarah's moment of boldness. Like that was something that resonated with me when I read the script is she like has an open heart, but she's nervous. She's a very nervous girl. She's not quite sure of like how to interact with Fabiola, how to speak the truth of the gospel. And I think that over the course of the story, she learns what it means to be gentle, but also to have this boldness and being able to hold those both together, like that's not contradictory to be courageous and gentle. It's
Right.
very one and the same, and so I'm very excited to film that.
Yes, only you and I, for right now, knows what happens in that script.
Hmm.
We're not going to spoil too much, but it's very interesting, and to go along with what you said, that scene is very powerful in my opinion as well. And I think you and Emily will kill it. I really do. I think the energy that you bring to scenes that because a little backstory for everyone watching. Megan and I actually read together when we were auditioning for this project
Mhm.
many moons ago, and it was a great job. And I just always just remember the energy that you had, and the
Mhm.
poise too. Like it was very easy for you. It felt like very simple to kind of go from those different emotions. So very
Mhm.
excited for that scene, and also our scenes in particular are something that people should really watch out for. I think people will really enjoy them.
Is there
Um,
something that you're really
so
looking forward to in terms of the shooting?
is there something? Yeah, so I'm really excited about, and I said this in the one podcast that I did with Ryan, is that there's a scene between Sebastian and Fulvius, and
Mhm.
it's tension driven. And I think it's the scene when they're at the table eating dinner, and they're talking about how humane entertainment is in Rome at the time with the Colosseum, or like the people fighting and killing each other.
Yeah.
And so it was. I think the tension there is really nice, and I think, like I said in the other podcast, I think if we really do get that down, it will show the audience a little bit more about our characters and what our goals are moving forward, but also it's something that the audience can see. Okay, these two characters are going to be like this the whole time, which
Mhm.
brings, makes you want to watch a little bit more. So I'm excited for that scene. Of course, I'm excited for other scenes. You know what I mean? But that one in particular stands out for me. And then at the end, seemingly maybe there's another scene at the end where Fulvius has a change of heart. Right? He's like the Grinch. His heart gets bigger and he just starts loving everybody. And so yeah, I'm excited for that as well.
Mhm.
Um, Megan, my next question for you is, what is college like? And I know you're going to school for acting. And
Mhm.
what does acting school entail and help you with? Because me personally, I never went to school or college. I never went to acting school. So what is the differences, and what does it help you with as a young actress yourself?
Yeah, so the logistic things are, it's helped me make a lot of connections. It's helped me build up my resume, my demo reel, which for people who are listening who don't know, a demo reel is kind of like a montage of my best acting, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
I've been on several films, been in several plays, um, and I've just done a lot of work for someone my age. And
Uh-huh.
like through like I made a connection with uh, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Someone on this project who knows me, who gave me
Okay.
the information. But
Right.
this is something I never would have had the opportunity to do if I didn't go to JP Catholic. So um, I think again, logistically, it's just helped me get a lot of different kind of experience. It's helped me make a lot of
Yep.
connections with wonderful people. Um, the great thing about JP Catholic is that I go to a Catholic art school, which is fantastic. Like I think this program is on the same level of as like Juilliard. Like I would say that they're very, very similar, except JP
Really?
is all in the lens of goodness and God. So I'm walking into an acting class and I know I'm not going to be asked to do anything immoral, which is a thing that happens in the industry,
Right.
obviously. Like I feel very safe. I never would have done a project like Magdalene at a secular school because I wouldn't have felt like it would be respected. And
Right.
I think it's very important that actors learn how to handle tough subjects that I think the world needs to be heard and or I think that the world needs to hear, but to do it in the lens of respecting the dignity of the human person, where we're not sacrificing ourselves as actors to deliver like a
Right.
morally gray message, you know? It's like good message, the dignity of the production is upheld, and that's why like I'm so excited to work with this family. Like they're also excited to make movies, but they're also like excited to
Right.
be saints, and I'm all over that. Like so
Right.
I think that
And they're so and they're just all on top of it. Like
yeah.
they're going 100%. You see that, and that's what
Mhm.
makes me excited too. Is just seeing how much energy they have about all this.
For
Yeah.
sure. So I think, I mean, at JP Catholic, like I've also learned too so much about my own humanity. Like when I feel like when I'm acting, I feel like I'm praying. Like acting to me isn't just like my career, it's also like a form of ministry that I like to do, where
Okay.
I feel like it brings me closer to people and helps me love them the way God does. So it's helped me
Right.
very much in my spiritual life as well.
Right. So projects like this, like a Catholic or high faith Christian belief kind of films, is that what you're looking to do for the rest of your career, or are you able to dabble in those immoral films, but not so much like they're not super cruel, but they're also not like pertaining to Christ individually, maybe as the story goes on. What is your
Yeah.
view on that?
So in terms of genre, like I'm open to doing Christian films and also drama, mystery, thriller, as long as the message of the film doesn't go against my Catholic beliefs. So for example, I'm in
Gotcha.
another show about like a bunch of juvenile delinquents where they're like, there's some language, there's, some like some drug use, quote unquote. It's not real, but it appears in the show.
Of course.
Obviously, I
Of course.
disagree with those things morally, but the overall message of the film is like to give everybody a second chance at life, which I think is very Christian, very Catholic,
Right.
and to
Okay.
not let your past define your future.
So what you're basically saying is as long as the projects kind of align with your being what is moral with your Catholic beliefs, for say there's this movie that was made about a person that's like addicted to drugs, right? Um, and at the end of the movie, they're clean, and maybe they become like a pastor. They start their own like organized group to help people get out of that addiction. Not only not only are you watching a film per se about somebody in the film changing their life, but maybe somebody who is addicted to drugs watching the film can kind of see that from the perspective. Is that what you're kind of talking about with
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
different films you would do?
hmm Exactly.
Okay,
Like,
great. Um, so, all right, next question for you is: are you a California native? Um, what is California like? How crazy is it? That's my
so I am not a California native. I grew up in Michigan, Midwest, and I never been to California until I moved here for school. California,
okay.
I would say it's crowded, it's noisy, it's
Very crowded.
adventurous though. Like I love the amount of things there are to do. I'm an outdoor person, so I love the beaches, I love the mountains, I love the hiking, I love the waterfalls. There's also, I know California is known as a place that's very woke, very liberal, and like borderline satanic and stuff like that. And I
Pretty much.
always,
I actually have that on. I have that on my questions. Is it's pretty much satanic. So
yeah.
how is that like?
That was actually my fear coming here as well, but I'd say that that is not true at all. I have
Hmm,
met so many like hubs of Catholic families. We also have a very large Hispanic population in California, so
yes.
that
Yep.
helps with just the morals and the beliefs of that I share. But I would say even
Right.
in LA, like beautiful Catholic places. Like I've had an easier time meeting other Catholics in California than I have in Michigan. Because I think,
Really.
yeah, I
Huh.
think I've and
Sorry.
also too, like in a lot of other states, I think maybe there's Catholic values, quote unquote, but a lot of people are very
Right.
lukewarm. Where in California, I've met people who are Catholic but on fire and like just totally in love with God in a
Wow.
way that I did not experience in the Midwest at all. Um, so we have so many beautiful churches. I mean, there's like missions all across the state. Like it's actually a very Catholic country state as
Yes.
well.
Country.
And
I
it
wish it was a Catholic country. I mean, come
yeah,
on.
me
You know
me
what I'm saying?
too,
I
me
wish it was a
too.
Christian Catholic country. We'd be fine.
Um, yeah. So definitely like in terms of what goes on in the news, it's not at all what I've experienced in day-to-day life. Um,
I mean, I don't really watch like really news in particular because I feel like it's so biased depending on the even the news station.
for sure.
I feel like nobody can really get a nice reputable story out of
Mhm.
it, even a news station, which is supposed to bring the reputable stories,
For
and it just
sure.
doesn't.
Just is like,
So, uh,
that's not that's not what I needed to hear.
yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of have to be there to understand different scenarios and situations that could be
Mhm.
fabricated by a massive, highly budgeted media group. You know what I'm saying?
For
So.
sure, for sure.
Uh, Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. So, okay,
Mhm.
what's the difference? Really quick before I move on to the next question. You're from Michigan, so what's the difference between? Well, pretty much everything. But what's the difference between Michigan and California? Um,
So
I can't. I can imagine that they're very different.
Michigan has 4 seasons. California is basically warm all the time. Michigan is boring. California is fun. Michigan is flat. California has mountains.
Okay,
Um,
right.
I'd say,
Michigan has no oceans, really.
yeah, it's
Well, they do,
lakes,
but not as beautiful as
the
California.
beaches. There's way less
Yeah.
people in Michigan. There's a lot of people in California, but to me, that's a plus. I like people places.
Yeah. Well, the thing is when I was in high school, and I had a couple theater performances, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to make it. And then I
Yeah,
realized I don't really want to go to LA because it's kind of crazy and you hear a lot, like we were talking about on the news.
for sure.
And I'm just like, I don't really want to live there, but I would love to visit sometime. I still have never visited. I want to go to like the Warner Brothers studios and the
Mhm.
Universal and
Mhm.
see all of that where amazing movies have been made and yada yada.
Mhm.
But also, I just want to like. I feel like California is almost like you wake up, it's beautiful weather almost all the time. You go down to a local cafe and have a cup of coffee with some friends. So it's like
Yeah.
you can do that anywhere in the world, but maybe in LA there's a little more magic. I don't really know.
I would say so I live in the San Diego area, which is a lot
Yep.
more bright. The LA area does stress me out. Like I don't like the spirit of
Okay.
the whole place. Like I drive there and I'm like, "Oh, this is depressing. I don't like it." I've been there like so
Right.
I'm somebody who's like I love California. I don't want to go to LA. Like I
Gotcha. Okay.
but like Sacramento, San Diego, beautiful places, I think.
Right. It's like New York, New York City. You don't want to
Yeah.
go to maybe some boroughs, but other boroughs are kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right. Okay. Understandable. Understandable. So the next thing that oh wait. Yeah, I pretty much the next question I was going to ask was both of us are Christians and understate that the state of the world right now is kind of off the rails. Um, we have personally, I want to do this as a career, but I'm a bit worried of also the satanic things at times as well. I want to what comes with this career.
Yeah.
What are you focusing on? I said, are you only focusing on faith related projects, or are you willing to dive deeper into characters related to faith? So we've already answered part of that question, but I guess from that derived question now, is Mary Magdalene a faith based character that you have dreamt of playing, or is there a specific character in any movie or theater performance that you would want to play? What is like your dream role based off of a faith project?
My dream role based off a faith project. So like
Yeah.
within that realm, I would so Mary Magdalene is I'll give two answers to this question. Mary Magdalene has was something I didn't plan on that
Okay.
has become a dream to turn into a feature. I think because it definitely is like a clear allegory to her story, but within
Hmm.
the modern sense of where
Sure.
it's gritty, it's an honest depiction, I think, of what being a prostitute is like without, going full
Diving deep into that. Yeah.
yeah, without glorifying anything evil and keeping it uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So I want to do a feature of that of my senior project where I we dive into her childhood, what makes a little girl who just wants to be a princess to turn into this.
Right.
And then another passion I have was I would be so honored if there was a story, a modern, not even a modern story actually, but like a depiction of the life of Saint Maria Goretti. And I would be
Okay.
honored to play Saint Maria Goretti.
What qualities in her are you what qualities in her would you want to explore most as an actress?
The depth of forgiveness in the most violent, like abusive in the face of so much violence and like abusive tendencies, like the depth of her heart has always fascinated me.
Right.
Where she can pardon somebody who is responsible for also like taking her life essentially, but also like trying to attempt to violate her. That is just like her, and in that she held on to her dignity. Like she didn't take on the labels of like, oh, I'm dirty, I'm bad. It was like
Right.
she still was walking in the lens of God's love and truth, even amidst being attacked by tremendous evil. And
Wow.
then I don't know if you're familiar with the life of Saint Maria Goretti, but
Not
the
too familiar. That's why I'm asking a question because I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would love to learn more.
So she was like an Italian a saint who, well, I think she died when she was like 11 or 12 because a man
Okay.
tried to violate her and she wouldn't let him. And then to get his revenge, he stabbed her to death.
Oh,
And eventually that man who then went to jail converted because of her. So I think that's
wow.
like just how God uses sin to then bring healing. I mean, to turn us into saints. It like blows my mind. So I would love to play Saint Maria Goretti. I think it would be a tremendous honor.
That sounds like an amazing project that could also be turned into a great feature as well.
Mhm.
And something maybe that you can dabble on in the future. Maybe you make your own interpretation of that, and then
Yeah.
you cast yourself
Yeah.
as her.
You want to
That's
help me with the if you want to help me with the script, that would be fantastic because I know you've mentioned before that you do a little bit of writing as well, correct?
I do. Yes, I do. Now, I do have to say, most of my projects at the very moment don't necessarily pertain towards high faith or Christian. It's just movies that I kind of make for myself. I love not necessarily making movies, but making characters.
Mm.
I always talk to my buddy who's also a screenwriter, and he goes, Caleb, if there's anything, because I always send him my scripts, and I'm like, hey, how did I do? Here's a rough draft, but let me know what I can work on, because I'm always trying to be the best I possibly can when I do something.
Yeah.
And he's always like, well, this is a little off, but this is a little off. But Kayla, if there's one thing I could tell you is your character developments in all your movies that I've read are great. And so I really love making characters, and then those characters kind of make the story. But yeah, I write a lot of films. Some are drama, some are thrillers, horror films, uh, some are like dramedies, like a little bit of funny, dry humor in there, but also
Yes.
like drama related stuff like that. So I haven't quite written a project pertaining to the faith yet, but that is nothing that I am not going to say that I'm interested in because so if you need help, I can help you. I can do my
Awesome.
best. I can build a character, and also it's really cool. Back to the fact of Mary Magdalene, your senior project essentially if that becomes successful, and I hope that it does,
Thank you.
you can then, with the same story, create your feature.
Mhm.
And if look, I live in New York, but if I'm in LA, I'll be an actor. You know what I mean? I'll
Mhm.
I'll be there. I'll do a character if you want me to. It seems like a very great project, and I'm excited to not only see the short, if you will, but that'd be
Mhm.
amazing if it was turned into a feature.
Yeah,
You can go more into the story and
for
show
sure.
people more.
Hmm.
So I think that's great. Um, okay, so the next segment's going to be kind of fun. All right,
Awesome.
so buckle up.
Okay, I'm
All
ready to
right.
go.
All right, so the next segment that we're going to be doing is called This or That. So we already dabbled on it a little bit. Harry Potter books, or sorry, Harry Potter, Hunger Game books or Hunger Game movies. You said Hunger Game books. Okay, so it's kind of gonna be like that.
Hmm.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, this or that. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. Cake or pie?
Neither.
Neither. What? Why neither? You don't like neither?
They're both very rich and intense for me. But okay, I guess
Okay.
pie.
Okay. I was about to say, what do you eat on Thanksgiving?
I guess pie, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have a
Accuracy
little pie
slice,
in
you
there
know?
somewhere. Yeah. No one, you just cut it by yourself secretly. No one sees you. You just walk away. Um, burgers or hot dogs?
Burgers.
Okay, good. Now this one's kind of a big one. This is hard for myself. French toast, pancakes, or waffles?
Waffles.
Really? I'm a French toast person. I actually had French toast this morning.
Very, very nice.
Yes. So, okay, that was just a little segment that I wanted to do. People, was a little quick fire. What you like. So, outside of acting,
Hmm.
is there any other hobbies that you like to do? Um, it could be, writing. It could be, you know, hiking those mountains, like you said. What are
Yeah.
other things you do outside of acting that you really enjoy?
I really enjoy anything pertaining to like moving my body. So hiking, swimming, I'm really into weightlifting. I love
Nice.
exercise. I also really enjoy cooking. Baking,
Okay.
a lot of fun for me. And then I enjoy psychology. So like reading just about the different functions of the brain and how we internalize information, how that lives in our brain and our body, I find just very fascinating. And I think it helps me to just understand myself better and like bring awareness to me. Um, I also really enjoy really just reading literature, like with my iced
You're a big
coffee.
reader.
I am. I've
Big
read
reader.
a lot of more like nonfiction stuff pertaining to either psychology or the spiritual life or whatever. Um,
Sure.
but I love stories. I'm big into stories and dissecting them and the characters and the things involved. Let's see, what else do I like? Hmm. I also love adventures. Like that's kind of vague, but anything pertaining to, I don't know, amusement parks, swimming in the ocean. I really just love
The
life.
ocean terrifies me, so
Really?
you'll be on your own on that one. Yeah.
Oh, I love the ocean. I'd
Like
love
I
to go
won't.
skydiving at one point too. Like
Yeah.
that's a dream.
The thing is the thing is with those is the ocean doesn't. Okay. First of all, NASA was in the ocean, and then they must have found something to go to space. That's my theory. They're like,
Okay.
we found a megalodon, and we are not going near that. Humans, in my opinion, we are just not meant to be in the ocean. We are land. I would like my feet on solid ground. I don't
Okay.
mind dipping the toes in or being like waist high in the ocean. I just know that not only is the ocean just filled with things that could kill you, but also the riptides and currents. Like you can't, for a normal person, you can't really beat that. You got to be careful, especially if you don't know like different stuff like that. I can see how it's fun. Read a nice book on the beach, get in the water a little bit. I can understand the excitement, but I'm not going like 50 feet off, 100 feet off the shoreline. I'm not doing that.
Second
Also
your
pertains to
toes can't touch.
skydiving.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I said the second your toes can't touch, it's like time to get to retreat a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I also pertaining to skydiving, I would love to go skydiving. Both my aunt and my uncle both skydived, and I saw both of their videos that when they went, and I was like, yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah.
But I tend to try and negate any situation that can like kill me besides like driving and stuff. Like, not a huge fan of like roller coasters, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I think, okay, well, if this person's only getting paid 15.50 an hour to make sure that my seat's locked in, and I don't do that, and I just put my life into somebody else's hands, you know what I mean? Like, I try to I try to stay away from things that could potentially injure me for or kill me. That's just kind of what I do. Uh, but yeah, I mean they're fun, roller coasters and
I just
skydiving. I
giggle.
think that would be
I just start laughing. Like I'm just like, yeah.
it's so freeing. So you would say that you're kind of an adrenaline junkie to an extent,
I suppose people could see that. To me, it's not adrenaline. It's just like fun. I feel like I'm
having fun.
flying.
Right.
Anything that makes me feel like I'm flying, I'm all over it. So skydiving, I'm like, yes.
All right. So what you're telling me is that a future project that you could do is Wonder Woman.
Oh,
You're going to be
definitely.
flying around
I'm all over
all over the
that.
place.
Like, if you
Right.
want to make me Wonder Woman, I will not say no.
Did you have any other questions for me as well?
Where are you originally from, and how did you end up in New York?
Okay, so I was born in a place called Cortland, New York, um,
Okay.
and then I grew up in I grew up in Homer for pretty much my whole life, which is like 5 minutes from Cortland. Went to school there, graduated there, and then from there, life has kind of just taken me all over the place. I went to Florida a little bit to live with my mom. My mom lives in Florida. I came back, and then I moved to Syracuse, New York, is where I kind of reside now.
Hmm.
And I've just been, I'm in a city. So, you watch college sports by chance? Do you know different colleges or not? Not so much.
No, I watched the Golden State Warriors. That's kind of it.
Okay. All right. Have you ever caught a game?
No, but
No.
But th that's the dream. My boyfriend loves the Warriors too, so I'd love like one day to maybe get tickets somewhere. But
Gotcha. Yeah, no, basketball is really fun. Syracuse is a D1 school out here near me, and I watch football games and baseball
Mhm.
games and basketball games, stuff like that. But yeah, Syracuse is just a nice little area where I'm kind of like 2 hours away from Buffalo, and I'm 2 hours away
Mm.
from Albany, and then I'm like 4 hours away from New York City. So if I got like an acting gig or whatever, I can go to Buffalo, New York, Boston, stuff like that within like a 5 hour
Solid.
time frame. So it's conveniently located for me. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about my background and where I grew up and where I'm from. So
I do have one more
um,
question for you,
sure.
actually. So you're playing Fulvius, am I saying it correctly?
Yes.
Um, where do you see yourself? Like, where's how do I want to phrase this? When you think of playing Fulvius, where's a part where you're like, "Ooh, this is really a stretch for me as an actor"? And then where do you find yourself being like, "Oh, I've been here before." Like, what's familiar, I suppose, about this character?
That's a really good question. Again, I haven't necessarily written anything pertaining to faith, and I haven't really acted in anything pertaining to faith. The only thing I've closely came to was I did this little murderous mystery commercial for a church about like 4 years ago. Other than that, I haven't really dove deep into a character like Fulvius himself, and I
Mhm.
haven't really got the chance to play in this kind of genre.
Mhm.
I've watched The Chosen. I'm assuming you watched The Chosen too. It's a great show, and after that show, I wasn't thinking much of it, but then I kind of got this opportunity, and I was like, this is something different that I haven't done. So I'm really excited to dive into that. But as far as it goes to Fulvius, what did you say? What I'm familiar with and what I'm not familiar with?
Yeah, like where do you see yourself maybe being not necessarily intimidating, but definitely having to stretch yourself to get into this character fully?
Yeah, I have been around the block with many of films. I've done quite questionable things on sets as well that I'm not necessarily proud of.
Mm,
Um, but I think as an actor who can, I would consider myself to have a decent range. I just like the idea of his arc of the
mm,
character. I don't think I'll have a problem with what's familiar with me is the intensity I can bring to a person who has a lot of hatred,
mm,
a person who has a lot of things in his personal life or things in general that he's upset about, and just the cruelty and the cunningness of the character. I've played
mhm,
that plenty of times. So that might be pretty familiar for me just to get back in tune with a bad part of myself.
mm,
Um, but the good side of Fulvius shown towards the end is um, something that I think I can approach just like anything else. But I think in particularly, um, he's I think I have to do it for the faith itself. It doesn't necessarily pertain to if me as Kaleb McConnor can do it. It's
mm,
I have to do it for the faith itself and to show um, the people of Fulvius's arc.
mhm,
I think it's really important for people, kind of like what you were talking about with Mary Magdalene, and she's a prostitute, but she meets this really nice, charming guy, and she shifts. It's kind of like that. Essentially, is he is a bad guy who turns good, and I think just that alone can hopefully change the opinions and minds of certain individuals, maybe going through a tough time, who
mm.
also have hatred in their heart or something like that. So I hope I answered your question fully without too much yapping. But
Yeah, no, I think
yeah,
that's
no,
great.
I think what I'm familiar with is just being able to um, relate to Fulvius in a way as well, but also then switch it to being what God intended us all to be, which is just kind and nice to one another. So
Beautiful.
I'm really excited for that. And as far as the film goes, there's a lot of prep work, as you know, that goes into a character development, and I don't have all the answers currently, but I'll find them. And I think I have a pretty good twist on Fulvius that I hope Mary and Faustina will like. The director, by the way, and everyone watching. So yeah, that's what I'm excited mostly about. Um,
Wonderful.
all right, so last question for you. Actually, I have two more questions for you. Um, your favorite thing that you have done in film or theater so far? It could be any project, anything that's coming up, just anything that is your favorite thing that you've done.
Well, we've already talked about
I know it's a
Magdalene.
tough one.
I won't talk
Okay.
about her again. Let's see. I
The answer is Magdalene, guys. The
Yes,
answer is Magdalene.
but um, I also did a film about a year ago about a girl who had to forgive her abusive father after her mom had passed. And
Okay.
her avenue for all her pain was painting, and it's called Pardoning Beauty. And
Hmm.
that film, I think, has been my favorite because of a character, again, is very similar, who holds on to a lot of pain, where I think
Uh-huh.
my character's name was Miriam, and she was very resentful of her father, very pained by the way she was brought up. And it's eventually, over the course of the story, she really learned to let go. And ultimately that led to her freedom. Um, so I really loved that project because I think it was very honest about the fact like all people have those places in our heart where we just can't go because it's so hard. And
Yes.
but the journey of what we're supposed to do is our hearts are supposed to be fully open. So we have to go to those places that are really painful. And I think that
Uh-huh.
when I'm in a time in my life where it's like, oh, there's that person again who I just can't forgive, or this thing that happened to me that I'm still affected by, and it's so painful, but it's I always think of that story, and then I try to incorporate that into my life of like, no, I want my heart to be fully open. So I need to let go, I need to heal, I need to forgive. That's been a very beautiful story that I've been able to tell.
Now let's make the story straight here. Uh, it's very hard sometimes to, as human beings who are imperfect, to forgive to an
Mhm.
extent.
Yeah.
Um, but like you're saying, you have to dive deep in yourself and find that forgiveness because
Mhm.
that's all you can do sometimes. Now, some people might not be able to, um, which is it's their way of coping with whatever. But yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. Everyone has those flaws in their life. Everyone has individuals in their life that they don't get along with or whatnot. But
Mhm.
just remember that the God's watching and He wants you to do the right thing,
Yeah.
essentially.
And he
Yeah.
wants us to do the
Um,
right thing for us too. Like he wants us to
right.
have joy and freedom. So,
Yeah. Uh, and I guess the last question I'll ask you, and this is kind of, I should have asked this in the beginning, but I kind of forgot about it. But
mhm.
I'll ask it now. What was your um, process like auditioning for Fabiola? And
Mhm.
also, how did you how did you hear about the project? How did it get in front of you?
So I was reached out by one of the producers and slash actors on the project who I'd worked with on a project called Relics, where I played a very stuck up Catholic girl who um, goes on her own journey over the course of the story. And he reached out to me saying, "Oh, Fabiola is a very similar character. I think you should audition." So I originally auditioned for Fabiola.
Hmm.
And how I did that was I read the script. I read the script once all the way through, then I read it again looking at her arc. And how I went through that was I figured out my prep, so to speak, for that audition was I wanted to figure out what she wanted. I wanted to figure out why she was hesitant with the Christian faith, um, and just making her alive and active, and looking at her relationships with the other characters. So really understanding the script and her. And so I
Hmm.
auditioned. I felt like it went very well, and then I was called back for Syra. And
Hmm.
so then I looked at the scenes with Syra again and um, dabbled into what I felt she was like. And she's much more gentle than Fabiola. She's much more, I think, sensitive and attuned than Fabiola. Um, and then figuring out kind of her character, why she does what she does, how she feels about Fabiola and like her inner life. And Then the morning of the audition, I got my setup, I did my vocal exercises, did, my own kind of prep to just be in a creative state, and
Right.
the audition and got the role of Syra.
And I bet you did absolutely amazing because as I go through the script itself, and also, by the way, I think I've already said this, but we read together, and you were auditioning for Fabiola.
Mhm.
Now, and I was auditioning for Fulvius and Sebastian. Now, if I remember correctly, you said that you read for Fabiola. Did they ask you to come back as a different character, or did you read that same day for Syra and Fabiola? Did they see
I
you pertaining to mostly Syra?
I think so. I believe I
Hmm.
read for Syra, but I didn't originally plan on it. So
Hmm.
I signed up to audition for only Fabiola, and during the audition process, they had me read for her, I think once. Um,
Hmm.
and then the follow up, they said, "Hey, we actually want you to do a full read for just Syra." And
Okay,
then during the call, I did Syra, and they really liked what I brought to that role. So
great. And I thought you absolutely killed the Fabiola audition. I was very
thank
surprised
you.
when you were not Fabiola when the casting came out. Is there something that you would have changed about your prep of becoming Fabiola, looking back on that, or is there some, or you just be like, well, I did what I could, and now I'm Sarah, but I'm Sarah, I'm
Yeah,
Syra.
so
Um, but is there something that you would have changed?
I would say no. I know Emily got the role of Fabiola, and I never saw her audition, so I don't know what she
Me neither,
did with the character, but I trust, Marion Faustina's opinion. Like whatever she brought is
of
what they were
course.
specifically looking for. So I
Yep.
wouldn't have changed my audition because I think all actors, we play characters the way we feel is truthful, coming from ourselves.
Right.
So if it's like if I
And
wasn't
also with the
oh,
sorry, the also the little based on that too, like also the little bit amount of prep work that we had in order to do the audition, you don't really know the full meaning of the character yet. You can only
yeah.
just do little things
Mhm.
and show the casting director what you've come up with. So
Mhm.
some people can do that better than others, and maybe they're just like you said, found something else
Yeah.
in Emily that they really. But
So
sorry,
for
continue. I cut you off.
Yeah, no problem. So for me, my version of Fabiola was mine, and I stand by it still. And I would say I wouldn't
Mhm.
change anything. Um,
Okay.
Now, having the role of Syra, I'd say I wouldn't change anything about the way that I do Syra because I was the one
Right.
that they wanted for that role. So there must be something about my mannerisms, my opinions, my prep that is exactly what they're looking for. So
Right.
I'm very excited to share the screen with Emily.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so fun. She's just in the little brief interactions I've had with her over like virtually. She's quite sweet. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I have an interview lined up with her this coming Tuesday, so I'll be
Wonderful.
chatting with her and stuff like that. But yeah, based on the prep work and stuff, like you were talking about how in order to prep, and I talked a little bit on the other podcasts I did. When I got the sides, you prep the sides and then you audition. Little fun fact about myself as well is I auditioned for Sebastian and Fulvius, and then at the end of the interview, the Mary and Faustina were like, "Hey, everyone else leave, Kaleb stay." And I felt like that kid after school who was like bad, stay
Mhm.
after school, stay in my class after school. So I was like, oh, what I do? And they
Uh-huh.
were like, well, we would like you to also read for Emperor Maximinian. Um, and that one threw me off because I was like, well, the Emperor, aren't you going to have like an older individual play that? And they're like, well, we're still indecisive if we want it to be a young king because that's obviously happened plenty of times in history,
Mhm.
or if we want it to be an older individual. But I read for them, and then I didn't get a call for a little bit, and then they said we would like you to play Fulvius, and I was obviously okay with that. I again loved the arc of Fulvius, and after that, I actually watched the Fulvius movies. There's been a couple adaptations of them, and I watched them. One I couldn't watch in English. It was supposedly dubbed in English, but I couldn't
Mm.
find the dub version, so I just watched the whole thing in French, and I
Nice.
didn't understand a single word of what was being said. But now stepping into the role of Fulvius, I looked at the mannerisms of the character playing Fulvius, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to copy that 100%. And this was after I got the role. But I was like, I want to kind of change it up a little bit. I want to have a different version of Fulvius that hasn't been seen because I was like, well, if Fulvius or Fabiola has already been made in Italian and French, and now we're making it in English, what can I do that maybe English people could relate with more, or how can I bring some sort of gravitas to a character? You know what I mean? Just change it
Yeah,
a little bit. So yeah, just talking about prep work, like you and I, seems like we have a lot of the similar things in common when it comes to prep work. Just finding what we can in the moment, and
hmm
then building on it as we go on.
for sure.
Um, but that's all the questions that I have, Megan.
Awesome.
So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Do you have any other questions for me or
No, I think I asked all the ones that I wanted, although I can't wait to work with you, get to know you more. I hope
yes?
we're on set on some similar days.
Oh,
Um,
we will be.
yeah, yeah. Well, spoilers.
Yes, we'll be on set together. Yes,
I really can't wait though to work with you, Caleb, and not only on this project, but hopefully on future projects as well. So thank you for taking the
of
time
course.
to get to know me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And for everyone watching, you can go check Megan out on her Instagram at Megan Mullaney, right? Megan dot Mullaney. What is
Mullaney.Megan.
your Instagram?
It's switched.
Mullaney dot Megan.
Mullaney.Megan.
Sorry, my bad. You can also check me out on Kaleb McConnor official on Instagram. But also, ladies and gentlemen, um, if you can go to Industrious Family and you can look at our crowdfunding, we are trying to raise money for the project. Obviously, also looking for investors of that nature. Obviously, we aren't a massive production. We don't have a massive production behind us. So all of our money and proceeds come from individuals with a heavy heart that want to help the project, and also investors who are looking to step into the film content world. And we're just really excited that everyone's here watching. And we are, I mean, I can't wait, like you were saying. So without further ado, I will end it.